Ladies and gentlemen, the parade will be stepping off in approximately 5 minutes. The parade will be stepping off in approximately 5 minutes. Can we have a big round of applause for the Thunder Bay Community Band and the mass bands, pipes and drums, Thunder Bay Police Band, the Thunder Bay Pipes and Drums, the McGillivray Pipes and Drums, and the LSSR Pipes and Drums. I hope you enjoyed the entertainment as much as I did.
Need the what? And there is a good chance that this is going to get out of order. I'm going to give my list. Pardon?
I'm set up on the other side.
What, are you scared? I don't think so. I am.
Parade Commander. March on the parade. Would everybody please stand? Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Good morning to our veterans, their families, students, cadets from all leagues, members of the Canadian Forces, members of our 4 police forces, members of both federal and provincial parliaments, and members of City Council, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Royal remembering our fallen.
Our home and
mourning. We will remember them.
Served in the Second World War. She suffered the loss of several male family members, but was fortunate enough to see her sweetheart come back from overseas. Mrs. Kerslake and her husband, Cliff, have been married over 65 years. Please stand once again to honor this year's Civil Cross Mother Representative, and the wreath will be laid on her behalf by Mary Rajapova. Fourth Field Ambulance Association, H. Johnson and V. Bernardi. Korean veterans, our legacy. Hong Kong veterans, R. Edie and C. Calvino. Merchant Navy, R. Christensen. Military units, HMCS Griffin, Petty Officer First Class Horst Newman, Lake Superior Scottish Regiment, Honorary Colonel F. Bickford, and Royal Canadian Navy, Lieutenant Chenier. Service Battalion, Major J. Zerba. 18th Service Company, Sergeant Connors. 18th Field Ambulance, Honorable Colonel E. Meyer and Captain LeBlanc. Salvation Army, Major M. Cotacon. Thunder Bay Military Family Resource Center, C. Veneruzzo. Thunder Bay Police, Deputy Chief A. Hay. Thunder Bay Police Services Board, J. Dojak. Thunder Bay Police Association, J. Hay. RCMP, Staff Sergeant N. Roy. OPP Veterans, P. Connors, T. Owenician. Thunder Bay Professional Firefighters Association, R. Hay. Superior North Emergency Medical Services, W. Gates, Thunder Bay Police Youth Corps, C. Wall, and T. Johnson. Army Cadets, Captain S. Squire, 309 Royal Canadians SCC Fort William, Sub-Lieutenant Stachkowski and Chief Petty Officer First Class Voss, Thunder Bay and District Labor Council, R. Stachkowski. Scouts Canada, C. Bergman and E. Bergman, Girl Guides of Canada, S. Reynolds, plus 2 guides. Algoma District Masonic Association, D. Harrison and B. Vogt, Alpha Delta Kappa Nu Chapter, M. Hansen and L. Wilkie. Beta Delta Phi Sorority, L. Penner and L. Marson. Canadian Lakehead Exhibition, L. Timko. COPE Local 96, B. Bordelin. COPW Local 120, W. Johnson. CUPE Local 87, D. Vasic. Dennis Cromartie High School, A. Sachacapo. Catholic Women's League, represented by St. Dominic's Catholic Women's League, W. Perozic and E. Sassino. Confederation College, C. Kyle. Da Vinci Center, P. Sassino and B. Perna. Dutch Canadian Society, L. Koopmars and C. Koopmars. Elks Lodge number 82, B. Tucker. Expert Hearing Solutions, I. McLean. And Fort William Rotary Club of Thunder Bay, D. Murray. Jenkins Funeral Home, T. DeRoche, Sunset Memorial Gardens, K. Gardner, Knights of Columbus, N. Knott, and E. Kaminsky. Lakehead Shrine Club, G. Poulin. Lakehead District School Board, D. Massaro. Lakehead Elementary Teachers of Ontario, J. Fuchsia. Loyal Order of the Moose, number 844, D. Mitchell. Women of the Moose, number 1338, B. Hay. And National Association of Federal Retirees Lakehead branch will be laid by a cadet. Oddfellows Lodge number 267, S. Small. OSSTF District 6A, M. Denford Cox. Métis Nation of Ontario, Senator K. Simard. Anishinaabe Aski Nation Deputy Grand Chief D. Fox. Northwestern Ontario Air Search and Rescue, S. Hunsberger. Northwestern Ontario Aviation Heritage Center, J. Milne. ORNGE M. Grenon, Pool 7 Employees Benevolent Association, laid by a cadet. Red Cross, A. Toth. St. John's Ambulance, P. Lennox, and G. Bailey with Murphy. St. George's Society, M. Luttrell, T. Baytel, S. Latu. Tetra Tech, B. Start, Thunder Bay Catholic District School Board, represented by St. Jude's School, S. Poling and 2 students. Thunder Bay Hydro, G. Armstrong. Thunder Bay District Health Unit, QP Local 1759, R. Curry. Thunder Bay District Injured Workers will be laid by a cadet. Thunder Bay Law Association, P. Strayton. Thunder Bay Meter Heaters, J. Eller. Thunder Bay Museum, F. Cherry. Thunder Bay Multicultural Association, J. Squire. Thunder Bay Airport Authority, M. Parker. Thunder Bay Public Library, J. Padaman. United Commercial Travelers, L. Gibson and S. Gibson. Unifor Local number 39, V. Baskin. Unifor Local 1075, B. Quinty. Uniform Local 1075 and retirees, G. Rusnak and T. Murphy. West Fort Rosevita Ladies Auxiliary, B. Otway and W. So. Westmount Public School, C. Eady, B. Stevens Pollings, and C. Neal. YES Employment, DTs, in honor of race relations with First Nations and non-First Nations, K. Campbell and S. Polensky. Thunder Bay Charity Casino, on behalf of Father Sergeant Stanley Keeping, P. Lacoste. And in memory of Corporal Joe Gagnon, E. Gagnon. Today it is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker. He began his journey in music at an early age to become an accomplished pianist. He started to play trumpet and found himself with the Lake Superior Scottish Regiment Band in 1976. He joined the reserve unit in 1997 and continued as a member until 1981. During his time with the LSSR, he played at the Queen's Silver Jubilee along with over 600 other musicians and pipers at the Canadian National Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. He attended schools of music during the summer months at Canadian Forces bases Shiloh, Dundurn, and Esquimalt. Ken is well known in the music circles as he has played with the Thunder Bay Community Band and served several terms as its president. He has also been a member of several smaller groups, including the Elks Clown Band and the Senior Amigos. At an early age, Ken also developed a passion for magic. It intrigued him. He became known as Magic Ken, entertaining at birthday parties, family gatherings, and civic functions. Ken joined the Royal Canadian Legion Kekapeka Falls Branch number 225 in the spring of 2004. He was an active member and soon became involved in the executive, ultimately becoming branch president for 3 consecutive terms. During his time as branch president, he also served the Legion as zone commander and then became district commander, extending his interest to helping the Legion in the entire district. Most recently, Ken was elected to and serves as Vice President of Manitoba and Northwestern Ontario Provincial Command of the Royal Canadian Legion. He is the Leadership and Development Chair for our command and now shares his skills with over 150 branches throughout Manitoba and Northwestern Ontario. Every 2 years, the Royal Canadian Legion sponsors a pilgrimage of remembrance through France, Belgium, and Holland. In 2015, Ken was selected to represent Manitoba and Northwestern Ontario Command on this tour of battlefields, cemeteries, and museums. His mandate following this amazing pilgrimage is to offer presentations to youth groups in all aspects of society in Canada today. This includes making presentations to schools, scout organizations, cadet groups, and any interested organization regardless of age or association. Should you know of any group or association interested in having one of his presentations, please find him on the floor following the service. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and pleasure to present to you our keynote speaker, my dear friend, Mr. Ken Malenko.
Thank you kindly, ladies and gentlemen. Please bear with me a moment. Thank you, Wayne, for that kind introduction. Comrades, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm humbled to stand here before you today to tell you of my experiences. As our MC Wayne had mentioned, I was selected by the Royal Canadian Legion to represent Manitoba and Northwestern Ontario Command on a pilgrimage of remembrance through France, Belgium, and part of Holland. Part of my mandate is to share these experiences with the youth of today, other Legion branches, and any group that requests a presentation. Over this 15-day tour, we did 9 wreath-laying ceremonies and visited several cemeteries, museums, and battlefields. And as a result, I feel compelled to express the true meaning of why we remember them. Please forgive me should I pause to compose myself. This highly emotional tour struck home in more ways than you can imagine. My grandfather fought in the Great War, and it wasn't until I stood on the same battlefield as he that I realized the sheer brutality of what he had gone through. By the end of this brief presentation, I hope that all of you too will appreciate the reason that we Legionnaires constantly quote the words, "Lest we forget." Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae is buried in a very nondescript Commonwealth cemetery. His marker, as you see here, lies flat and is no different from the rest of his comrades. He wasn't killed or shot by the enemy. He died as a result of sickness that was unpreventable and not easily cured in 1918. And yet his words have immortalized the meaning of remembrance. Flanders Fields, my friends, is not one field owned by a farmer named Flanders. Flanders is a whole county in northern France and Belgium with Dutch connection as well. To give you a better idea, Flanders encompasses an area about the size of Prince Edward Island. And yes, I've been able to walk among those hundreds and hundreds of fields. What you see behind me is a description of trench warfare. Trenches were not that nice. These pictures are recreations of, believe me, the real thing was far, far nastier. Imagine being trapped in those trenches when mustard gas and chlorine gas settled down upon you. Imagine being soaked in mud, suffering from trench foot, then watching your buddy die beside you from a bullet to the head while trying to peek over the edge. That's what they really look like. It was a miserable, miserable time. Then came the order. The order meant you had to go over the top into what was known as no man's land. Between you and the enemy, anywhere between 5 and 20 meters of often sudden or prolonged death. This is what remains today of Beaumont Hamel. This field behind me has active ordnance. You're not allowed to go anywhere near the Frenches because even 100 years later, it still has active ordnance. Beaumont Hamel. This is the 100th anniversary. We started on July 1st of 2017, celebrating 100 years of the loss of the Newfoundland Regiment. Loss is an understatement. It was mind-numbing. Of over 800 men that went over that edge, only 68 returned to muster the next morning. And that is the reality of trench warfare. This little find was quite an eye-opener. That is a bullet found in the field by one of my comrades during our tour. Our boys were the subject of the very first lethal gas attack by the Germans in Kitchener's Wood. You can't even begin to imagine the horror they felt while watching a green cloud descend upon them and watching their friends in front of them gasping and suffocating. I'm pretty sure that I was one of the very last people to lie about my age to join the Army. That's something you can't get away with today. But finding this grave was a real wake-up call. We found 3 more markers of 15-year-olds. Rifleman M.J. Strudwick was from Britain. He was 15. During the pilgrimage of 2017, they will discover the oldest soldier to fight in World War I. Although I have not seen it, I'm told that this soldier is an astonishing 67 years old. The Menin Gate was built in 1923 to honor the missing. What I found most striking are the names of the ones that were never, ever found. Standing here and reading some of them brings a sense of familiarity, as I could easily recognize some of the names on the wall at the Menin Gate. As you see, there are over 55,000 names on that gate. Every night since November 11th, 1929, Last Post and the Rouse is played in a wreath-laying ceremony at this gate. Every single night, except for 4 years of the unfriendly occupation of Germany. The Battle of Passchendaele underlines the drive of Canadians. We lost 16,000 boys in this 1 month period, 9 of which were awarded the Victoria Cross. You'll see that is just one of many cemeteries in Passchendaele. Some memorials are simple roadside cairns, and others have a strong statement near an intersection. Many of the forgotten and are neglected. For the 660,000 plus men, we should remember them. These simple roadside memorials are often found near a farmer's field. They are small, yet they drive home the reason why we have to remember the horrors of war. The bright red wreaths that you see in wooden crosses are laid by British pilgrims. These are Commonwealth cemeteries that we visited. This site near Kitchener's Wood is one of 4 Canadian monuments. It is, without question, the most impressive of the 4. But you will find a plaque denoting how many soldiers were lost, in this case, 18,000. The numbers do become staggering. Between the crosses, row on row, well, I hope now you can see why. There is over 643 cemeteries, just Commonwealth cemeteries, in Belgium alone. Every one of these cemeteries has a register, and we ask anybody visiting them, please take the time to sign it. The Tyne-Cot Cemetery of them all is the largest Commonwealth cemetery in Belgium. That's what it looked like in 24. And today, Tyne-Cot Cemetery holds over 11,900 graves. And the wall behind it, as you see there, is an extension of the Menin Gate. It holds another 30,000 names of our lost. This cemetery is very impressive. It is extremely well manicured. Every cemetery in the Commonwealth Cemetery has a cross of sacrifice, you see behind me there. But as you can see, crosses and headstones, row upon row upon row. Our tour guide in this one happens to be identifying a recipient of the Victoria Cross. Note the cross on the lower part of J.B. Robertson's headstone. It denotes he was indeed a Victoria Cross. And there again is a rear-facing wall for the continuation of the Menin Gate. There were 28 of us on this pilgrimage of remembrance. We started out as strangers. We came back as close as family. My good friend Charles is from Newfoundland, and here we are paying our respects to the British friends. The immortal words of John McCrae. Unfortunately, another war was brewing. We had tradition from war to war, and in the 20s and 30s, memorials were constructed to honor our fallen. Europe never expected to see this kind of conflict again. It was called the Great War, the war to end all wars. Don't we wish? Unfortunately, we had to bury our dead once again overseas. World War II started in 1939 through 1945. One of the earliest battles of all the efforts in the earlier part of World War II, Dieppe was without doubt the most planned and thought out deal. It was called Operation Rudder, but the operation was chopped apart by the British High Command, and it was left with little to no support from the air or the sea, and it was without doubt the most disastrous operation of the entire war. That's what Dieppe looks like today. It's otherwise known as the Monte Carlo of the North. It's a gorgeous stone beach on a beautiful setting. We tried walking some of the beach stones and found out what our boys faced when they landed on that beach. This is what they encountered. It was pure hell. For those that actually did make it over the seawall, there's a monument inside a museum. We will remember. Of all the units, the Scottish unit was one of the hardest hit. There are dedications and memorials to Saskatchewan Scottish Regiment throughout Dieppe. Most people are familiar with Juno Beach. At this beach, it was considerably different than Dieppe. It was sand, it was easier accessible. You could get tanks on shore, but still view the carnage that happened at Juno Beach. These are the bunkers our boys faced. They were hit by heavy artillery. The massive structures were an incredible obstacle to our invasion, but now they're sliding into the sea. Most of you know about Canada House, I would hope. It was the first house liberated on Juno Beach. We stood in front of that and paid our respects in a wreath-laying ceremony. Sublime looking beach, isn't it? Today, the Canadians have a monument. This remarkable center was not built by the Government of Canada. This center was built by veterans of Canada and is maintained by a staff of Canadian students wishing to learn more about the wars that led to its construction. The monument on the beach to Charles de Gaulle. There's a typical pillbox up in that far right corner, and one of the many, many, many Canadian testaments for all the regiments and units that landed on Juno Beach. This, ladies and gentlemen, is in a battlefield that actually stunned me. I urge anybody with a smartphone or a computer to Google Pegasus Bridge. I had no idea the extent of the success that gliders were used during this time of war. The Horsa gliders swept in to this key objective. It was crucial to the success of Juno Beach and D-Day that this and two other bridges were protected to allow access to our troops on their march to Berlin. They went in silently with gliders. Those gliders would hold 22 soldiers and 2 crew. This is the actual site where they landed. 3 of them landed and were able to take out the German protection of this bridge. They were highly successful. That is one of the German guns. One of the first ones that our boys knocked out. And again, more. This particular house is very interesting. The owners of it, it's now a cafe. The owners like to claim this was actually the very first house liberated on D-Day. And the reason they claim that is because those gliders swooped in 2 hours ahead of the 5:30 a.m. of the invasion of Juno Beach. This is actual glider. It's not a replica. It can hold up to 28 and 2 crew, but 22 is a standard for this glider. That's 18 students standing beside this aircraft. If you do the math, you can see it was pretty darn cramped. We have monuments throughout the battlefields. both with World War I and World War II. This particular monument has considerable significance. This is at the aerodrome near Benny-sur-Mer. The very first Canadian flight to land brought in 2 kegs of beer to some very thirsty troops. Needless to say, this incoming flight was extremely well received. That was Hell's Corner, one of the meeting places of all of our troops marching together. These small cairns and memorials are all over northern France, where certain battles had taken place. People come out of nowhere to pay their respects. As we pour concrete today and give a little regard to its permanency, this one picture strikes home. Circled in behind there is a German bunker that still stands to this day and is almost indestructible. The building in Europe simply goes on around it. This particular monument is very dear to me. This is at the Abbey d'Ardenne. It is the most poignant and stirring one to myself. 14 of our soldiers were interrogated and murdered after they wouldn't talk. This was the very first place that I performed a wreath-laying ceremony. And again, I'm sure that you can imagine how hard it is to play last post with tears, right? Many of the sites where these murders took place aren't even marked. This one is near Chateau Lebeau, near Arras, France. 7 more soldiers of the Manitoba Dragoons were taken out back, shot and buried in an unmarked grave. They were interrogated and led down the path. They knew what was coming. The Polish military. We have 2 Polish legions with us today. They were literally chased out of their country and started fighting back again in France. Together with the Canadians, the British, the US, they suffered heavy losses while defeating Germany. The Poles joined nearly every single battle alongside the Canadians, but they also fought battles single-handedly. Many of us know the Battle of Monte Cassino. 2 other Poles fought bravely and were victorious were the Battle of the Scheldt and the Troon-Chambois Gap. I was able to go to the Troon-Chambois Gap, and what the Polish military suffered was incredible losses, but they were fought and they were successful. Poland, like Canada, has many, many memorials to honor their losses. This particular museum is dedicated to the Canadian-Polish heroes that liberated the entire area. The Poles were pushing hard to get back to their country. This little canal became one of the most hardest fought battles in the front line of the Second World War. Looks kind of small, doesn't it? It took us almost 3 months to get across and defeat the Germans. We remember our fallen by maintaining our markers, monuments, lost sites, and cemeteries. In Dutch, op zoom means on the bank. This cemetery of Bergen op Zoom, we performed a wreath-laying ceremony, again, honoring our Canadian fallen. In every Commonwealth War Grave Cemetery, there is a cross of sacrifice. Some cemeteries also contain the graves of German soldiers and French soldiers. If you look close at the picture, you'll be able to see 2 crosses against the 2 cone-shaped headstones. that depicts French soldiers and German soldiers. Our Commonwealth graves are a simple rounded top headstone. It was startling to me to find names that I actually know in these foreign cemeteries. 8 of our boys of the Lake Superior Regiment lost their lives in 1944. J.F. Oliver, H.I. Whalen, A.W.P. Sweeney, E.R. Binch, E.C. Branch, F.C. Jeffrey, E.L. Fisher, and the next slide, J. Reynolds. Every one received a flag and a moment of silent prayer from my comrades and myself. We just recently lost another veteran of the LSR who actually did make it back. My friend and comrade Joe Fraser left his friends, these friends, behind. He was 89 years old. Have you ever heard of Oliver Papunj? The Oliver we just saw is the family that brought you that township. We paid our respect to all of our fallen, and one couldn't help but realize the sheer sacrifice the men and women of these wars had offered our country. These men and women lost are the very reason we stand together today and celebrate our freedom. One cannot truly understand freedom until it's taken from oneself. Think about that. Please think about that. Here's the hard part. When you've been able to walk on the ground that these men and women once walked, it has a funny way of grabbing at your heart and tearing it to pieces. There is a good reason that we should always remember them. Thank you, lest we forget.
On behalf of today's youth, all current and serving members and veterans of the Canadian Forces and the Royal Canadian Legion, thank you very much, Kenny, for that stirring presentation. Every year we ask a serving cadet of one of the leagues to offer a reading of Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae's famous poem. This year we welcome Cadet Master Warrant Officer Andrea Matthijs. Andrea has been a member of 2294 18th Thunder Bay Service Battalion, Royal Canadian Army Cadet Corps for 5 years. She currently holds the position of the Corps Regimental Sergeant Major and has been selected to attend a trip to Vimy Ridge next year, commemorating the 100th anniversary of this battle.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. We loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Thank you so much, Master Warrant Officer Matthijs. One of the most touching ceremonies we practice here in the Fort William Gardens is the passing of the torch. This very moving act symbolizes our history, our future, our solidarity as Canadians, and underscores the meaning of remembrance by having a veteran pass the torch of honor, commitment, and service to country to a current serving member. This year, Comrade Bill Majbroda will be passing the torch. He is a World War II veteran himself. Private Andrew Hotram enrolled in the Lake Superior Scottish Regiment as an infanteer in 1997 and shortly thereafter deployed to Bosnia-Herzegovina with 2nd Battalion of the PPCLI, otherwise known as the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, to aid with NATO's peacekeeping efforts. Without question, Corporal Hotram by this time had seen serious peacekeeping action during his young life. The word peacekeeping is not a word taken lightly within the Canadian Armed Forces. These volunteers for duty see life-threatening action on a daily basis throughout the world in their efforts to bring truth, justice, and dignity to nations that request our help. Andrew completed a transfer to 18th Service Battalion in 2002 and worked his way through the ranks. Over many years, he has continuously promoted remembrance and respect for the past service that so many of our men and women deserve. Andrew was promoted to Master Warrant Officer in December of 2015 and is the Company Sergeant Major. Andrew is the proud father of 2 beautiful boys, Holton and Grady. As well, Andrew works full-time with special needs students for the Lakehead Public School Board at McKellar Park School. Andrew is extremely honored to have been chosen to participate in the torch ceremony, along with Mr. Bill Majbroda. I ask everybody to stand, please. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our past and present veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the benediction and closing prayer, once again, we welcome Reverend Nancy Ringham.
Let us pray. O God of peace, may the memory of 2 world wars strengthen our efforts for peace. O Father of souls, may the memory of those who died inspire our service to the living. O Builder of the kingdom of love, may the memory of past destruction move us to build for the future. Amen. Go out into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Encourage the faint-hearted. Support the weak and distressed. Give honor to everyone. Love and serve the Lord. And the blessing of God Almighty, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be amongst you and remain with you always. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join Mr. Clint Harris in the singing of the Royal Anthem, God Save the Queen.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, on to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Please remain standing as we prepare to march off the parade. At this time, I would like to thank the Thunder Bay Board of Education and the Thunder Bay Catholic District School Board and all of you for attending this very important Remembrance Day service. The organizing committee would also like to extend a huge thank you to all of the cadets in attendance today, our current serving veterans of the Canadian Forces, the firing party, the Thunder Bay Police Force, and Chief J.P. Levesque for providing security at all locations of remembrance on this day. To the City of Thunder Bay for providing the Fort William Gardens as the Southside venue. To Maverick Group for providing the large screen behind me and on the floor. And to the entire staff of the Gardens, without whose dedicated work we would not have this facility to remember our fallen. We would also like to thank members of the Thunder Bay Police Pipes and Drums, the Thunder Bay Pipes and Drums, the McGillivray Pipes and Drums, and the LSR Pipes and Drums for entertainment provided during the seating. Thank you to Pipe Major Lauren Clifford for playing the lament for us today. As always, a warm and grateful thank you goes out to the Thunder Bay Community Band under the direction of Mr. Ted Vine. We thank you for your wonderful support and performance during these ceremonies. We would also like to extend a thank you to Comrade Joan Cameron and Karen O'Shoot for their years of dedicated service in running the Poppy campaign, and especially for me for getting the list of wreath layers to me. Nobody appreciates you more than I do. The Royal Canadian Legion Branch number 149, the Polish Legion on Simpson Street, would like to invite all in attendance to join them for a little camaraderie and free chili after the service. As well, the Royal Canadian Legion Slovak branch number 129 on Atlantic Avenue in the East End would also like to invite all attending to join their veterans at the branch for a time of fellowship and camaraderie. A free bowl of chili and other refreshments will be served as well. Both branches of the Legion will be open and will welcome all of you with open arms. Please join us as we remember our comrades of the past on this day. Parade Commander, prepare to march off the parade. Before we begin the parade, off the veterans and the color party. Thank you very much, ladies and